Hello everyone and welcome to Kings Talk presented by Cap City Crown. This is Tony. With me as always we've got John. The Kings had a 3-game winning streak running until they ran into the Miami Heat without, I think, 7 of their players, including Jimmy Butler, Terry Rozier, Tyler Hero, Nikola Jovic, not Nikola Jokic. And, you know, in classic Kings fashion, they lost to them. But they did beat the Clippers the night before. It was the second of a back-to-back. And, you know, just, I don't know. It's always weird. It's like I feel like we're always so close to coming in and being like, Kings on a 4-game winning streak. They beat this, this, and this. And then, like, right when we're about to have, like, a good podcast, they do something like losing to the Heat without 7, with 7 guys out. I don't know, John. Well, it feels like it's a common reoccurrence.
Yeah, and it might be the most illustrative installment of that habit that the Kings have, where they make us think that, you know, just when you think that you've kind of been too hard on them, they do something to make you realize that you just weren't hard enough. They are who they are, at least at this moment in time. You know, it's one of those things where back-to-backs, fatigue, especially this close to the All-Star break, is not an excuse. Like, it never has been an excuse. It was never, even when the first couple back-to-backs happened, when the Kings just, like, dropped them all and looked terrible. I think it was, like, the first 4, second of a back-to-back this season. It wasn't even necessarily, like, the fatigue or, like, the travel or anything like that, or the quick turnaround catching up to them. It was more or less, like, these kind of common trends of letting teams kind of hit you first and not really responding. And at that point in the season, they were really letting go of the rope, which I do think is one thing that they've really worked on. Like, despite dropping games lately that really drive you nuts, there's a lot of times, maybe outside that Detroit game, where they do maintain the fight. Like, when they lost to Memphis, they weren't playing well, but they fought all the way through. You know, they almost came back against Miami. But still, nevertheless, there's just something in them that just makes them not go out there and, as De'Aaron Fox and as other players have said, put their foot on teams' necks. It's just this common trend of just dropping things from the start, not taking team opponents seriously, maybe not coming in with the right focus, taking things for granted, maybe. You know, they've been described as doing that at home by their head coach. It's these common things that just show that they're not a championship contender now because they're at a stage of their growth where they're so far off from that as a team for many different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's more of a coaching thing or more of a player thing?
I mean, I think it's more of a player thing right now. I think there's issues on both ends. I feel like as a player, you just need to stay motivated. Like, you have to want it. I just feel like sometimes they don't want it enough. And, I mean, you know, you see it sometimes, but in times where it's, like I said, like, we're almost so close to just, like, clapping. It's like, yeah, Kings 4-game winning streak, beat the Clippers, beat the Nuggets, and then, like, then you lose to the Heat without 7 guys, and it's just like clearly sometimes I just feel like they're just going in there, like you said, they're just, like, taking it for granted. Like, okay, like, Hero's out, they're expecting someone else to step up, and no one does, and then they kind of just drag their feet, and then they play catch up, like we saw in the fourth quarter. I think that's the biggest question for me with this team is their heart. It just, sometimes they just don't seem to be in it, and they see the Heat, and then they just like, it'll be an easy win. And then they, you know, let the Heat get comfortable. I mean, they should have never let it get to that point. You know, they need to start the game as strong as they finish games. That's why I put it on the players. This is my long explanation.
Yeah, I agree. I would, just to kind of start by saying, I mean, I was watching the post-game interviews on the Kings YouTube channel, and the first comment that I saw on the thing was like, Mike Brown got straight up out-coached by Spoelstra tonight. And I thought that was a little bit misguided, because I would assume that man would say that this is a coaching issue more than anything. If you're talking about what's the main issue as to why the Kings come up short in so many ways regarding their effort at times. But I would make the point that it's like, Miami has its own culture. They have its own thing. And they do that all the time. And Mike Brown made a great point, kind of reiterating what we've said all season, which is like, you know, when you can compliment the Kings defense, it's when they're playing with a sense of desperation. Guys are flying around. You saw it in the fourth quarter against Miami. Yeah. You know, they threw the kitchen sink at them in terms of, like, zones and doubles and everything like that. And they're flying around and they're moving around and everything like that. But the point is, like, it's not sustainable. And Mike Brown said after the Miami Heat game, he was like, we have to have our own culture, first of all. And he was also saying that we can't just be coming out of the gate doubling and doing crazy stuff like that, throwing the kitchen sink at teams. We have to be able to try to just sit down and defend. And they've shown that they can do it at times, and that's why he's so insistent on it. And it's so much tied to that effort and that focus and locking in. Because you have a team here that, they're staying in games and remaining engaged and keeping their fight up to a point where they made that game close. But De'Aaron Fox says it all the time. You hear it from Mike Brown all the time. You hear it from other players. You have to be good throughout the course of the ball game. It's a game of runs. You're putting yourself at a disadvantage to try to do it all at once. The Kings almost have, when we're talking about the stage of their growth, they almost are at the college stage, where they're just like cramming to study at the last minute. You know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't, but it's screwing with other things. It's screwing with their social relationships, it's screwing with their family relationships. I don't know. They're starting to mismanage their time and be immature, and they're not really kind of realizing what's important. As opposed to what happens to a lot of us, or maybe not a lot of us, but it hasn't necessarily happened to me. But, you get to that stage of maturity where you get up and you seize the day. That kind of crap. That may sound corny in a real life scenario, but to be a champion in the NBA, you have to have that mentality in the game, not just in your life. And that's just clear. So it's the players, but I think it is a stage of immaturity that can be mended through time and experience.
Yeah, I think it's experience. I mean, at the end of the day, they're not a championship contender this year. They're not going to go from breaking a 16-year playoff drought and have the same exact team. They're just not going to go to a championship-level team, and we're seeing that firsthand. They're inconsistent. They're immature, if that's the word you want to use for it. I think it's a good word. And a mature team would be playing at that level of defense and offense throughout the whole game instead of, as you say, throw the kitchen sink at them at the end of a game to try to catch up from a 20-point deficit that they created in the third quarter. And so I just think experience, as sucky as it is this year, considering that they won't win a championship and, possibly get bounced in the first round at maybe the play-in at this point. The 5th through 8th seed are like half a game apart. It's so crazy right now. But anyways, my point is that this year is going to be a lot of experience, a lot of stuff they're going to learn from. And they're going to realize that if they want to be a championship contender, they can't be doing the stuff they did in year 2 of this process. It's only going to make them better, but when you're living it right now, it's definitely not the most fun thing to watch.
Yeah, but I mean, there's still got to be a lot of optimism because at the end of the day, maybe you're not the Miami Heat, but think about the Miami Heat. Didn't they win a championship when the Sacramento Kings started their playoff drought, more or less?
Yeah, they won it the same year.
So it's just like, it's one of those
things. No way,
where
did
it's
they?
like 2000.
Oh, they won it the year after. Sorry. They won it the last year the Kings went to the playoffs, I think. 06, right?
Yeah, 06. So they're just at different stages. The Kings are just getting above the surface after digging themselves a 16-year grave. They're just above ground now. Miami's in the air. They're flying first class. They're a first-class franchise,
They literally have a jersey that says Heat Culture, which I think is stupid. But, I mean, they have it for a reason because their culture is different down in South Beach. Heat Culture. It's literally like their city jersey.
Yeah, that is kind of stupid. But the Heat, the Spurs, the Warriors to a degree, it seems, although it could be fading. We'll have to see what the longevity of things are. I don't know how they do it, but they do it in their own way. And that was kind of a point Mike Brown was saying. And at this point, you have to actually kind of think about things in a way where it's like, okay, this is kind of just a learning experience. It's exactly what it was last season. It's just tougher because there's actual expectations this year.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, the Kings are who they are right now. It can get a lot better, and it's actually reasonable to believe that that's going to be the case because it's likely. It's not unlikely.
Mm-hmm.
So, but in terms of how they can get better, I think one of the things that we've talked about a lot this season, we even talked about it last week on the podcast, is the leadership of De'Aaron Fox, which, in a nutshell, we've talked a lot about how he needs to grow as a vocal leader and that he's actually kind of good as a leader by example. But I was thinking about it over the last couple of games. Is he a good leader by example? I mean, he almost embodies the issues of the Kings at times. At least when you think about the defensive end of the floor, that's the end of the floor where, where they're so good against the Clippers. They were physical and able to play with pace because of their defensive stops. It all comes down to that. Fox says it. It's not just Mike Brown. The players preach it. Fox is about as, a stenographer for what Mike Brown says as anybody. So it's like one of those things where it's like they all understand that that's the case. And yet De'Aaron Fox is kind of this guy that, you'll see him play angry, for instance. You saw it in the Clippers game. You saw it even in the Miami game. You see him play angry. You see him not get a foul call, not necessarily have something go his way, and he'll turn it on. He'll play really well. And what seems like a lack of focus and immaturity to some is actually kind of a stage of him locking in, kind of becoming that guy. And it's just the issue, though, of doing what he says all the time that we said earlier, doing it throughout the course of the ballgame. How do you do that to start? You have to do that to start. Because clearly he's the best player on the team, or at least the most. Sabonis might be the best player on the team. It's both of them. But we talk about him with the tenure and everything like that. He's the leader of the team. So he's clearly a representative of that. And if he's doing stuff like that, where he's not always coming out strong out of the gates or maintaining a consistent aggressiveness or maintaining a consistent boot on the opponent's neck, as it were, it's kind of conspicuous that the team would be doing that kind of as a unit. Mm-hmm. And you see it in kind of the way Fox plays defense. He's aggressive at times and it pays off. And when there's like a sense of urgency about him, he can really kill it and really make some big plays. You saw him make a big play. What was it, against the Spurs late, and against the Clippers, you saw him come to life defensively. He can take over ball games that way. But it's not necessarily always consistent. He's actually had a lot of bad defensive moments over the last couple weeks. I don't know. This is all a long-winded way of saying that he's still, like, if the team has a lot of growing to do, he still has a lot of growing to do. And I think that we've kind of maybe cut him a little bit of slack in terms of the leadership by example, because we focused a little bit too much on the vocal leadership, which might not be who Fox is. And you can't really necessarily ask a guy, I guess, to be somebody he's not.
Yeah, that's a good point. We do focus so much on his vocal, but I can't even say it better than you. It's just, you're right. He just has so much room to grow as a leader. And it's another part. It's part of the growing pains of this team is that I think, again, they're going to look back and realize that, and hopefully Fox realizes it next year. Well, it's like, if we really want that next step, I'm going to have to grow. And maybe Sabonis too, Maybe Sabonis will take a look and be like, okay, you know what? We all have this good camaraderie, and yeah, we can be open with each other, but sometimes you just have to be a little mean. Get in someone's face. That's the vocalness. It hasn't always been an issue with Fox's inconsistency, and we talked about it a lot last season, where, and I think early this season too, right? Where he just comes out kind of lethargic and doesn't, step on the gas until later in the game when maybe it is too late and they're playing catch up. And that's the story of the Kings, it feels like this year at points. So, yeah, at the end of the day, just Fox has a long way to go to be the leader the Kings need him to be if they want to be that championship level team.
Yeah. But it's like, again, just to throw it out there, like we said last week, it's one of those things too where it's like that nonchalant air to him. Like, especially about like the All-Star thing, you could maybe like look at the nonchalant stuff as kind of being like, oh, he's not serious or whatever. But it's like, oh, you can kind of see it as he's got a bigger goal in mind. Mm-hmm. So a lot of this can be fixed quite quickly if he can do what he does in the playoffs, which, quite frankly, is I would bet on happening considering he was a standout performer in big moments in the playoffs. So, he's got his issues, he's got his room to grow, but he still could kind of do it when it matters. But nevertheless, I still think it's important to be doing it all the time because it's about if we're bringing it back to culture, it's about a system. It's about doing things consistently and bringing it all the time. And it's going to work from the top down to the bottom. Mm-hmm. You see it with Fox.
That's the job of a leader. And he's the leader on this team regardless. And maybe that's indicative of their performances lately. He might not act like one, but at the end of the day, he is. And I guess that just shows that he is a poor leader at the moment. He's the leader of this team. Whether he likes it or not, he is. And until he realizes that maybe and embraces it fully, it's going to be the team's going to be a reflection of him.
I don't know what it'll take, but we'll have to see because that's another one of those topics we just keep beating the drum on.
It's hard not to. But a topic, that we can beat the drum, it's maybe not the most fun to talk about. But, it's worth noting. It's just Domantas Sabonis in general has been absolutely incredible this year. He's on 40 straight double-doubles. The record in the last 40 seasons is 53 by Kevin Love in 2010, 2011. I mean, it seems well within reach for him. It's only 13 more games. I mean, it seems like it'd be crazy for him not to get a double-double at this point. I feel like he can do it with either points and rebounds, points and assists, or just rebounds and assists. I mean, that dude, I mean, I need to look for sure, but I want to say he's like 8 triple-doubles in the last 12 games or so. He's just been on a tear. And don't quote me on that, but I was looking at his basketball reference. I'm like, dang, this guy's...
I think it is.
Yeah, and it probably is. He even has a record. So a fan, Jamar Thompson, I'll throw your name out there. He sent me an interesting little note that the record for double-doubles in a season is 72 by Hakeem Olajuwon. Sabonis is at 53 right now there's 27 games to go, I believe is what I did the math. Let me look. It's probably on my calculator. 25 games to go.
Yeah.
He needs 20 to break it. Do you think he could break the single-season double-double record at this point?
Basically get a double-double in 4 out of every 5 games.
Yeah.
Well, okay, 53 double-doubles in the first, so 25 minus 82 is what?
He missed 4.
Here we are. Missed 4.
He's only missed 4.
Oh my God, there's no way he missed it. How is he going to miss 5?
Yeah, right?
More than 5. Yeah, he's going to...
Unless he gets hurt. Unless he
that.
Starts missing games. That's the only way, right?
Yeah, which...
I mean, he hasn't missed a game yet.
When he breaks his thumb.
Yeah. He's played every game this season.
Or even when he's sick. Yeah.
Yeah, so he needs 20 more double-doubles.
Good for him, man.
Dude, I think he ends like 3. I think he ends like 3rd in MVP voting if the Kings stay out of the play-in. I feel like he's getting a little... I think we talked about it last week a little. It's like maybe like him being a snub was almost like an all-star snub was almost like bringing a little more attention his way because now everyone's like, how is this guy not an all-star? I mean, he leads the league in triple-doubles, double-doubles. I mean, in this month of February, I think if he averaged... I need to do the math exactly. He's averaging like 10.5 assists in... or maybe it's 10.6 assists in February so far. So I think he needs like at least 5 or 6 assists against Denver tonight to average a triple-double in February.
They play Denver again?
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
They really bunch them together. Is everybody playing for Denver this time?
I don't even know what I'd rather happen. Like all of Denver play or just like Jokic and Murray are out and then the Kings lose by like 30. And they play in Denver too. So, but
sticking to the point.
I mean, he's going to do it. He better win Player of the Month too. A triple-double in a month. It's probably been done more recently than in history because of like Westbrook and Jokic and I mean, even maybe James Harden, but still, he, like 20, 14, and 10. That dude, he's been an animal. I like how we talked about it early in the season. It's like we just wanted to be more aggressive. He seems to be more aggressive, scoring.
Well, I think we found out he's a bit of a slow starter.
Yeah, that's true. He was last year too.
Yeah. Well, you said he should be Player of the Month and should be closer to the top of the MVP list, at least candidate list. I mean, honestly, he's been so good defensively this season, and I think that gets lost because, if you're Bob Myers, per se, who called the game on ESPN, what was that, Sunday night, the Clippers-Kings game?
Yeah.
Was talking about, Harden's not going to be afraid of going into the paint against Sabonis. He's not a shot blocker, And maybe that's true. Yeah, he's not a shot blocker. But, Bob, Mike Brown got your team to go be, number 2 defense the year they went to the championship by a slim margin against the team they beat in the NBA Finals. The guy that had Kevon Looney and Draymond Green basically as his primary bigs. Not shot blockers by any means. I just don't get it. It's just so silly that he was even pointing that out, making a big deal out of that. Because when you factor in all the other aspects of playing defense in the modern NBA as a center, Sabonis is well above average, in my opinion. He's not only terrifically smart, but he's been just getting better in terms of all the little things. Of course, he really showed a lot of improvement last season, looked really good kind of embracing Mike Brown's defending the rim with verticality and positioning and doing your work early. He's been even better at that this season. We saw it from the start of the year. But even more so, I think just in the last few games, really since the All-Star break, I guess, he's just, for instance, against the Clippers, there were a few times where Kawhi Leonard tried to get around the corner on a screen, and Domas was able to position himself not only to get in front of Kawhi, but also be in the right position to defend and kind of disrupt the passing lane. And they defended it quite well. And I think forced Kawhi Leonard to get into a position where he made a pass twice that were bad decisions that ended up being turnovers, easy steals for the Kings. Seeing that was huge. He also in that game guarded Russell Westbrook one-on-one. I think he guarded a few other guys that were smaller than him over the last 2 games. He looks a little bit better doing that. He's just fluid. He's flying around to the perimeter. You can see them being a little bit more comfortable with switching him, although you don't want to do that a ton. But he's just continued to get better and better and better. And it's like he didn't shut down Bam Adebayo, but he was kind of hanging with one of the most athletic centers in the league. He's not a shot blocker or whatever. He's not like an imposing defender, Bob Myers, but damn, like he is an underrated defender if there ever was one.
People overlook it so much too. Like they see the low shot blocks a game and they just think he's not a good interior defender, and that's really far from the case. So I think it is important to bring up, because I mean a lot of people are just like, centers should be averaging over a block a game, right? Defending that rim. But you can do it in other ways, and Sabonis is a good example of that for sure. But Sabonis, February Player of the Month, man. Mark it down. I wonder if you can bet money.
You probably can.
Yeah, probably.
Probably. He's probably at the top of the odds.
I wonder who else is in there. Who's anyone else having a good month in the West? A lot of talk on Wembanyama lately.
Yeah. He didn't look too great against the Kings. He looked good, but
he didn't. But it's sometimes a stat line, Yeah. Just like I think he scored 19. He had 5 blocks and 5 assists or something.
Yeah, but like Fox said after the game, it's like we know he's going to get 3 or 4 blocks in the game. It's just
it's crazy. Isn't it funny? The top shot blockers are rookies. It's kind of funny.
Yeah,
Holmgren
and that is kind of funny.
And it's the skinniest guys too.
Yeah,
it's everyone would shit on Porzingis for it. I can't wait to see how many posters he has. And he's just postering everyone. Yeah, he's not having that good of a month. Not Sabonis level.
No. Sabonis is having.
And they suck. Oh my god, the Spurs are really bad.
Yeah,
the Spurs have won 1 game in February. They won 1 game.
I think they're effective. I think they're effectively looking for another number 1 overall pick. That'd be pretty good for them.
Yeah,
the NBA would probably love that too. Like, hey man, Popovich sticking around. We can get the Spurs back in the fold pretty quickly. Who knows? Hey.
Yeah, get them back before Popovich dies at this rate. Probably die before he retires.
Pop. They just have Pop. They just have him embalmed on the bench.
Just something. It's like the Ronald Reagan head from Futurama.
Yeah. Just all the historical heads. Greg Popovich.
Yeah.
That'd be hella funny.
Hey, one of the best, if not the best, to do it. I think Phil Jackson still got that title, but
there's a lot of good
maybe
candidates,
not.
But he's up there. He's definitely up there.
George Karl. Yeah.
George freaking Karl. Was it didn't he take every team to the playoffs every year for a streak, and then he started coaching the Kings?
Yeah.
It's dang it.
Talking about George Karl, DeMarcus Cousins finally gave up his attempt to return to the NBA. Says that chapter is closed in his life. It's you haven't played there in 2 seasons, guys. Or dude.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Jeez.
Not the biggest fan of Cousins.
When was the last time he was really good? 2000.
Last time?
16, 17?
Probably 17. I think he got traded in 16. 15? I don't even know anymore. But, oh well. Sorry, Cousins. He took a picture with Ranadive. Him and Brad Miller at the All-Star weekend.
Vivek Ranadive.
What's up, Vive? What's up, Vives? Anyone call him Vives, you think?
Probably. Did you see Vivek Ranadive wearing that one jacket? With all the patches on it? That parts of Sacramento. I just saw, does that say The Pocket on it?
I know. The Kings are really trying to get, fashion, artistic in their team store this year. That was one of them. It's also selling for like $250, which is
that's hella. That's hella lame. It's like hella kitschy and fake. I don't like it. That's not Sacramento.
I agree. But
like when people say it's a cow town, I'm like, no, it's not, and that's an exact example why. It's just shit like that.
Yeah,
no. I don't know.
Anyways,
Bob Myers. What about Bob Myers?
Bob Myers, dude. I think I'm more surprised that wasn't Doris Burke commentating with.
I don't know why they always have these cut rake versions of Doris Burke. Like Doris Burke is terrific, but you don't have to get like women that just have like her style of voice. Like, yeah, that'll work. Let's plug her in. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I feel like I was getting. Like, it seemed like her and Bob Myers did not do their homework on the Kings at all. And it just was. It was very. It was. I'm not like a fan or anything like that. I watch the games as objectively as I can, and I'm not really connected to a team necessarily. But it was still making me annoyed because it's just like at least you could do is a little cursory little research on a few guys. Like it didn't seem like they did that at all.
No, that was. They were just It was not very. It was not good. It seems like they didn't have anything to really say on the Kings. It was like, yeah, the Clippers. And as the Kings were like smacking them down too, I feel like they didn't really have any material to say on Sac.
They kept calling the Clippers this elite team, which yeah, they are. It's just like you just keep saying that all night.
Yeah, exactly.
Kings, they're playing pretty decently against this elite team. Can they beat this elite team? This is an elite team, though,
dude. First time they beat the elite team. That was nice.
Yeah, I know. They needed to.
Without Paul Jorge?
That's important to note. And that's why it's important to know whether or not all of Denver's starters are going to be playing. Because I want to see... The Kings have had some good wins against some good teams. But, Paul George doesn't play. I think in all the games where they've beaten the Nuggets, I think the first time it may have just been Murray out, and then the other two, there were two starters out in each game. I want to see them beat a team at full strength, but who knows?
Let's see if they have the injury report out yet, or just like what's going on in Denver, huh? That Mile High City.
What is going on?
Denver, Colorado. So we got Canchar out. What's his first name? V. Canchar.
Conchar?
Conchar? Cancer? It's spelled cancer with an A. And then Tyson.
I don't even fucking know who the fuck that is.
H. Tyson. Do you know H. Tyson?
Oh, Hunter Tyson. Yeah, he was a rookie. He was a second-round draft pick. He's a really good shooter out of Clemson. Mm-hmm. Five-year product out of Clemson.
5 year, huh? Out of Clemson. Yeah. I want to say Canchar was on the... if I'm saying it wrong, just call me out. I don't know. I want to say he's...
I'll look it up and I'll cut this if you're not saying it right.
No. Let them... Vlatko. It's Vlatko Cancar. He's Slovenian. So Cancar, and he has like a little upside down triangle over both the C's, if you know what those symbols stand for. Because I don't know what they're called, so sue me. All right.
They're like sounds or something, right?
Chanchar? Tantar? Like the...
Doesn't Basketball Reference have like the phonetic spelling?
Yeah, dude. They do. You're totally right. Chanchar. Vlatko Chanchar. I want to say he's on the Grizzlies last year. No, he's only been on Denver. So
okay.
He's shooting 37% from three. Down from 58% last year.
That's a big fall. It's like Keon Ellis this year. He shot 50% from three in the NBA.
Dude. Keon.
He's only shooting like 37% from three now. It's like, dude, that's a huge drop off. I don't care if that's...
Why sign Keon to a full contract, which means he can like play in the playoffs, right? And just keep playing Davion. I'm not saying Davion's terrible, but they signed this guy, so you sign him to like a full contract. I get it; it's not just it has to do with this year; it has to do with the future itself. But Davion, he's still not pushing any needles for me. Why not throw Ellis back out there?
I think they would have given Ellis a standard contract this offseason had they not been trying to keep their flexibility open. And I think when the trade deadline came and passed, they were just like, well, might as well just sign him to the contract. Come to that agreement now. And they probably were planning to do that all along if there wasn't anything going on there. Because they always had that little roster spot open, filling it with 10 days with the JTA. So that is kind of the case there, but why are they playing Davion over Keon Ellis? Well, it's like Keon Ellis hasn't played terrible when he's gotten out there. I don't think he's done as well of a job as like kind of staying ready and going in there and making an impact like in a short amount of time to earn time. Seems like when he's earned his time, it's been like in long stretches late in the game. So maybe he just hasn't had that ability to get in the rhythm that's going to make him stand out. But another reason is Davion is playing kind of pretty well. I mean, like, I don't know if it's a long enough stretch to feel like, oh, he's the guy and he's going to be solid backup point guard through the playoffs and be the defensive guy he was in the playoffs last year against the Warriors while being slightly better offensively. I mean, I don't know if that's the case, but I mean, he's at least opened the possibility for that. He's been very decisive. And if it's sparse, and this is what makes it difficult for him. Is like you're just gonna have these small moments, and you have to seize that opportunity right away. You have to not have any hesitancy, and he's really wiped the hesitancy away pretty well. I mean, I think he took an early shot clock three, but it was wide open against the Clippers, right? Missed it, but there was like something there where it's like, in a psychological sense, I feel like everybody was happy he took that shot. Okay, yeah, he's a 30% three-point shooter. Maybe that's a bad shot, conventionally speaking. But when you're thinking about the big picture, when you're thinking about maybe just kind of giving this guy one last chance to reach that ceiling that you drafted him on, it's a good shot. And I think in the game against Miami, he had a decisive drive. He's had several of those throughout. He has kick-out opportunities that don't always get converted because the three's missed or whatever. But he's doing stuff in small amounts of time while providing the defensive intensity. He was a little too maybe defensively intense against Harden, who's very good at drawing fouls. But outside of that, I mean, he's been pretty damn good on that end and doing what he's supposed to be doing. And he's played up to par, and I think the three has fallen just enough. I think in the last few games, I don't know what the stats are in front of me. Maybe you have them up, but Davion's played pretty well. And you have to keep factoring in, it's like not playing him. What does that do to his value? If he's really not the guy, I know that means maybe you do want to play Ellis and try to get that integrated a little bit more going forward because that's going to be the plan. But you're going to be stuck with Davion's, getting a $6+ million contract next year because he was a lottery pick. And I think that'll be the last year of his rookie deal. But, if he's not playing, it's like that's like money you're throwing around that you could be paying for a role player or two. I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like you have to play him to be able to get rid of him.
That's true.
But he has been playing well.
Yeah, I mean, he's played well for Davion standards.
Yes, that's a fair way to put it, I think. It's not a huge impact, but it's like, again, he's just kind of fitting in, and that may be another illustration of why he does need another home and why he may not be fit for that role on this team, because he just doesn't maximize it. He's just filling it just enough. You just kind of put some flex seal on it.
Yeah.
He's not really like sealing up that job for good or wowing anybody with impressive craftsmanship. It's just the liquidized rubber. That sounds kind of weird, but off of Davion, because I feel like Davion has like the potential to, if the offense comes along, be a guy in the playoffs that can do something for the Kings. I mean, we still bring up from time to time the whole decision to go with Terrence Davis in Game 7 and not really use Davion at all in the last two games of that series against the Warriors. But, a guy that since the last game before the All-Star break has been playing really well is Chris Duarte. And we didn't talk about him last week, but I think we were planning on at least mentioning him potentially, because he played really, really well in Denver ahead of the break. And in the 3 games since, he's been a very useful contributor. He has looked far more comfortable in the offense, which has been a very big work in progress. He's finding that balance between just keeping his hands out and using his chest while not fouling at all. I think he's been better at that. And he looks far more useful in the sense that Mike Brown kind of has another versatile player to use. He's almost kind of like another Trey Lyles, not in the same position or role, but in terms of now you can go smaller with both of those guys out there. Now you can kind of switch far more ubiquitously out there on the defensive end. And you've seen it with the smaller lineup. It's been like a small lineup of roughly, I think it's like Fox, Monk, maybe Herter, Duarte, and Lyles. Maybe you swap Monk or Herter with Davion or something like that. But it's roughly like that small lineup, with Lyles at the 5 and Duarte out there being this kind of versatile perimeter defender with strength that can give you the ability to guard a range of players. And I think that is the kind of stuff that unlocks the versatility, that unlocks what you're going to be able to do in terms of adjustments in the playoffs. It gives you another card to pull out. We talk about how much that's important for Lyles and how much that adds to his value. I think we're seeing that to a degree with Duarte. And Duarte is another guy that still is going to be with the Kings, at least in terms of the way his contract works out on his rookie deal. He's going to be with the Kings next season. There's a chance that he's really just developing and setting himself up to maybe do something late this year and do something going forward with the Kings. I kind of expected him to have a better post-All-Star break, much in the same way I do with Davion Mitchell. And I expect him, if he is indeed on the team next season, I expect him to be a way, way more consistent contributor than he was, at least in the first 2/3 of this season. So it'll be really interesting to see how he closes out the year and how he's utilized and how he can function in the playoffs, because I think he can be a super weapon, but he hasn't necessarily shown he's done it in long stretches, so he's got to do that first. But I think it's an interesting thought.
Yeah, I think it is for sure. I think a word you can use for him in the playoffs is an X factor kind of guy. You know, he's still trying to find his feet in SAC, it feels like. But yeah, he has put it over a good stretch of games in the last few. So, I mean, I think versatile is just a perfect word for him. He's also a good defender. I mean, he can be a good 3-point shooter. I mean, man, if he can really kind of just fit into the offense and knock down some threes and just continue playing that good defense, I mean, that's just another 3-and-D guy that you have in your back pocket when it comes to the playoffs. And if he's really going to start warming up as we get closer and closer, I mean, all the better for the Kings. I like Duarte. I still see a lot of potential in him. Maybe not like what he was drafted as a lottery pick, but I still think he can be that really good 3-and-D guy. And he showed glimpses of it this year so far and recently. So I still have like high hopes for this kid. And hopefully he just keeps playing well and plays better and better. And then X factor in the playoffs. Like, we have this guy in our back pocket this whole time.
That's the key, because it's like I don't think we're anywhere close to returning to the conversation that he should start over Herter. Herter's played well. I mean, he has his ups and downs on defense. Like, he didn't have a great first half defensively against the Clippers, but had a great second half defensively against the Clippers, but then followed it up with he and most of his teammates had a pretty bad game against Miami defensively. So he's like up and down. But one of the things I would point out about Herter is, like, even if he is shooting well, even if he is kind of giving you enough on defense, it's not all the time that you're going to want to close the game out with him. And I feel like in that Miami game, it wasn't the reason they lost. I feel like there was that turnover that really just kind of changed everything. But still, there were 2 moments where Herter was involved in like defensive breakdowns in the last 2 minutes. And it was just kind of making me think, and I think he also missed 1, 2, maybe 3 deep balls late in the game. So it wasn't like he necessarily made the biggest impact offensively. So it's like, if you talk about that potential, happening, and then you talk about Duarte being that kind of defender that can shoot, all the options, I mean, it's just there. It's not necessarily that he's going to start over Herter or that he's going to close lineups over Herter, but it's just like on those nights where Herter's not necessarily giving you everything, Duarte's a perfect backup to him, because it's like Monk is almost more of a backup to Fox or a second fiddle to Fox. Duarte is more fitting to kind of lend something in terms of the depth behind Herter, because Herter clearly can't do it all on his own. He can't do it all the time. He's been a lot better, and he deserves a lot of credit. But, I mean, Duarte is just expanding not only the versatility of the team, but it kind of just expands the leash that I think Herter gets. I think that helps him out a lot.
That's true. That's a good point. We'll see. We'll see what we can continue to do for this team. And I mean, it's the perfect example of what we've been talking about all year. It's all year. Like, half this podcast is the experience and what they're learning from this year and how they're going to be a better team this or next year. And I think Duarte is a good example of, learning from this year and just getting better and building, being an integral piece of a championship team. So he definitely can be. And I think we will see it a little in the playoffs too, for all those reasons, man.
I mean, it's been a long time coming for Duarte, but it's like, again, he got traded. I don't think he was expecting to get traded necessarily. He doesn't. His English is not perfect, but it's been a process. But he's stuck with it, and he's been adamant about being that defender first for the team, and realizing that that's going to get him out on the floor and be the biggest impact on the team in terms of his skill set. And it's just like, I feel like it was really just a matter of time for Duarte. He's been a little frustrating at times, a little inconsistent. Like, just when he's almost another embodiment of that. Just when you think, he's coming around, he just drops off. The fouls come back, or the offense looks a little lost. But it's slowly starting to come together for him, and I think that's huge, because we were talking about him being kind of one of the major pickups this offseason in an offseason where they didn't really pick up anybody. And it really didn't pan out in anything exciting necessarily in terms of hard results in the first 2/3 of the season. But it'll be really interesting to see what happens. So good for Chris.
Good for CD3, dude. What's up, Chris Duarte? Duarte? Should I start calling him Duarte again? Get crucified.
That guy, that clip got like thousands of views, so.
Dude, because I was saying his name right.
Yeah. Duarte.
What's up, Duarte? Just shooting darts out here, man. Shooting darts.
Duarte's Inferno.
It sounds like something Kyle Draper would say.
Duarte's Inferno?
Yeah, anything with what we just said.
He said another funny thing, like, how we always make fun. I don't think we make fun of it on the podcast, but it's like, there was that time where it's like, oh, Herder put the rookie on the school bus. Took the rookie to school, picked him up from school. Like, that whole crap.
Yeah.
He said something, I think, against the Spurs. It must have been against the Spurs, because it was Mark Jones the other night, and then it was a national TV game the night before. I think it was the Spurs game where he's like, oh, fuck, I don't even remember. Where am I going with this?
I want to know.
Some stupid thing where it was like some poster thing. It was about like a poster. I don't know. I'm going to cut this, but.
Just leave it. Yeah, Drapes, dude. What are you going to do? Love him or hate him, that's who we got, So I say just love him.
Yeah, I think he's great. And I still think it'd be a great idea, even though it's tough in terms of the legality of using people's likeness. But I would love to have a t-shirt that has Kyle Draper, like, with his big smile. And it just says, like, Mark who? Or who the fuck is Mark Jones,
Dude.
Because this guy's the king. He's taking over. Like, Mark Jones called that game the other night, and I'm just like, forgot about you, man.
I know. I was surprised to see Mark Jones, too. I honestly didn't turn it on until, like, the second half of that Heat game. I'm like, yeah, Jones is calling, huh? Jonesy?
Oh, Mark.
What's up, Jonesy, Indiana
Mark,
Jones?
you showed up to school today, Mark.
Took the rookie to school.
You took the rookie to school, put him on the school bus, made sure you dropped him off at school. It's weird. Like, where are you? Just keep going.
We need
keep riffing, Kyle.
And someone needs to just watch every game he's ever called and just, like, come up with, like, Draperisms. Like, he's heating up like a fine wine. I remember just listening to that. I'm like, what? Where are you going? Where are you going with this? You just got two of them mixed up. But, you love him for it, It's like,
I love it because
try your best.
I love it. He's like a jam band, He's just like kind of riffing. I feel like a lot of the stuff, some of the stuff he clearly had tried to come up with ahead of time. But I feel like Mark Jones is the epitome of like scripted, and he'll like use the same things over and over. All right,
he's very scripted.
But like Kyle Draper is just so he's got the creativity of a child,
Yeah,
like I love it. It just restores hope, and
he's so innocent. I think that's a perfect word. Just like he's just innocent, a child. He's just It's like, it's hard to hate him. It's Kyle Draper, dude. Like, you just give him a pass. He's all right. Yeah. He doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know any better.
I hope Kyle hears this, because something tells me that Kyle's seen some of the other stuff or listened to some of the other stuff we've said about him, which seems kind of mocking. Maybe we're making fun of him, but it's all out of love. And I just want to make sure that, because on our Facebook page, we got someone complained about the owners of Cap City kind of harassing them, and I was figuring that that's probably a burner account for Kyle Draper. And so, Kyle, if that is you, just know that we love you, and go ahead and delete that, because it's not good for business. And that would be great, because it's either Kyle Draper or Kevin Herder.
Yeah, one of the two.
Yeah,
who knows though? Herder, you'll get an apology next podcast. Drapes, this one's about you.
This is always about Drapes,
dude. Drapes is—he's
the man.
He's the man. I can't say it better.
You know what I can say?
Yeah.
You know what I can say about Kyle Draper? Is I bet he's a really good dad.
Does he have kids?
Yeah, I bet he's a good old. Yeah, he's got like two. He talks about them all the fucking time.
Oh, you're right. He does. Yeah.
Like, imagine like Kyle Draper picking you up from school. Like, what a jolt of energy. What a refreshing thing to see after sitting in a hot classroom all day.
Dude.
What's up, Dad? What are we doing? It's like, you want an icy?
Dude, no. I remember
it's like, oh, my kid just put the icy in the cup. Whoa, he just took that icy to school.
Oh, my God. Draper, dude.
Oh, I'm getting out my wallet. I'm going to pay for this. I'm going to use the credit card, get 1% cash back. Like, honestly, I'm surprised Golden One doesn't just give him a commercial where he's doing that.
He should. You know, there's going to be a day where, like, Mo Reagan is on the Northwest commercials now, or was. I don't know if she still is. I don't really watch commercials as much as I used to. But yeah, one day Draper's just going to pop up in an ad. Has he not? No, he is. Is he not on, like, Mercedes-Benz commercial? I think he is.
Is he?
I think he is.
I can see him in it. I could honestly just see Kyle Draper being the owner of a dealership.
Yeah.
He'd be really good at it. I bet he'd be really good at it. He's super personable.
Yeah. I think he is a Mercedes-Benz commercial guy, though. Unless I dreamt that. Or maybe it's someone else. But I think he is.
It doesn't sound crazy. I could believe it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I think Golden One should definitely look into doing a commercial with him where he's just... Because he's done that a couple times now where he's like, oh, he did that. He's just like kind of like describing stuff.
Yeah.
But he's describing it in that way. It's just like his over-the-top commentator voice, which is actually so adorable. You know, when you think about it. But
Kyle Draper fan club over here.
Yeah. And you know what? Speaking of commercials and another fan club, I think I'm a fan of that Sac Airport girl.
You like her now?
They have these new commercials. I'm like, wait, the Sac Airport chick is hot? What?
That same chick?
I was amazed. They yeah, it's just like different. She got like a makeover.
Mm. Like the one in the support group one?
Yeah.
I'll have to pay more
It's
attention.
the new one, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Like,
because the old ones are like the Shakespeare, the Bard guy. It's like, that's just such terrible marketing, but we don't need to get into that one.
Your dad audition for that?
Yeah.
That is true. The new ones are actually kind of funny. I'll give him that. It is a little better. It's like, I don't know. It's a little clever. It's so funny.
I wasn't listening at all. But.
It's something about like, oh man, just listen to it next time. I'm like, okay, it's better than the old ones. Maybe the other ones were like so bad that's like you can appreciate these a little more. It's just wait. In comparison.
No, I remember like the support group. They're like, we were going to go to San Diego, and someone suggested driving.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's literally 8 hours of staring straight ahead. I'm like, have you ever been on a plane before?
Yeah, but it's only 1 hour instead.
I got you.
With 2 hours at the Sacramento airport, dude, where they got food. That's only $30 for a hamburger at the same establishment that it's probably across the street from your house right now.
Maybe the commercial writing doesn't do it for me, but the makeup and hairstylist did wonders. And you have my attention. I may be flying to San Diego.
Boom. Sacramento Airport. This is just actually a Sacramento Airport. We're just sponsored by them. And we're just pushing their name now.
No, we're sponsored by Sacramento Executive Airport. Come on down and stay at what is that? They have like a bar and like a little like restaurant there at the Executive Airport. Yeah,
it's right next to. Is that the one next to Bing Maloney, the golf course?
Yeah,
they do. It's called something. I don't forget.
I don't know. I think like it's a historical place. It's been there for a long time.
Yeah.
So if you know that, you can comment the name of that place, and Tony will give you a free birthday call.
There you go. I'll call you. Just type it down in the comments.
Just put your phone number in the YouTube comments or the comments on Substack.
Yeah.
Only we'll be able to see it, I swear to God. I swear to God. Only we'll be able to see it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just us.
Nobody else. It won't be public. Like, nobody else will see your phone number, and nobody else will call you pretending that you owe them $50,000.
But all right, I think that wraps us up for the podcast. Like I said, the Kings play Denver tonight in Denver, and then they go somewhere and play Friday night. I think Minnesota it is, Minneapolis at 5 p.m. Then they're off till Monday. They got the weekend off, kind of like they did last week. They had Friday and Saturday off last week. Now they have Saturday, Sunday off. So enjoy your weekend. No Kings basketball. And then they play Monday against a team. I don't know. But I know they play Monday. So, John, anything to wrap this up?
Yeah. Fucking pay attention to the commercials, man. We were always talking about the commercials.
Yeah, it's, half the game, feels like sometimes. So, well, I want to thank you all for tuning in. As always, until next time, have a good one.